I'm Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Stonesy Reads. Weeds. Welcome back to Stonesy Reads. Right now, I should be probably going to bed in 10 minutes, but instead, I'm reading. Because maybe or maybe not, I got sidetracked and forgot to do a reading episode. Maybe. Hold on. Let me check my YouTube. Maybe this is just a waste of. Nope, I definitely forgot to. Tomorrow is going to be a house flipper video. Isn't that exciting? Or I mean the day after tomorrow. Whatever. But today we're reading 181 to 200. I would read to 210, but we're short on time. So sucks, but the episode for Thursday is going to be short. But that's okay. So, let's begin. Her mom had explained what a blue jacket lines were. In a tall old house on the top of a tall old mountain, the tall old ghost floated through the main hall. Susie's mom began to reading. Susie plumped a pillow under her head and scooted closer to Samantha. Samantha's breath caught, and she turned into Samantha's log, as if an evil witch had suddenly frozen her. Susie sniffed and backed away. Why was Samantha so mad at her? The tall old ghost in the tall old house wasn't a pretty ghost, Susie's mom read, but she was a happy ghost. He was a very, very happy ghost. Susie noticed her mom's eyes were shiny and wet. Susie also noticed her mom's voice sounded croaked and crackly. Keep going, Samantha said. Her mother sighed again. Susie's mom returned to the familiar story without the ghost who was happy because he got to spend forever with his family. Till he found out he wouldn't spend forever with them, since they were moving. That part always made Susie as sad as it made the ghost in the story. She couldn't imagine moving out of this house. Who would take care of Oliver? Susie's mom read quickly until she got to the part where the ghost found out if he went away from the house to a special place of sparkly light, that where the truly happy ghost hung out, the ghost would never ever have separated from his family, no matter where they went. She slowed down over that part, and she cleared her throat a lot. Susie thought it would be very nice to be in a place where you would never be separated from your family. She loved being with her mom and Samantha. Samantha could be a pain, but she was Susie's sister. When the story was done, Susie's mom stood, hesitated, then went to the door. Sleep sweet, she said. Susie wished her mom would kiss and hug them goodnight, like she used to, but Samantha had decided they were too old for that, and she wouldn't let her mom do that anymore. Apparently her mom thought Susie agreed with Samantha, but she didn't. As soon as her mom turned out the light, Samantha curled onto her side. Good night, Samantha, Susie said, but her sister didn't respond. Susie shrugged and curled into a ball, facing the window. She looked at the skinny carved piece of the moon that peeked into the room. Its light wasn't bright enough to see by, but it was bright enough to make a lot of funny shadows. Two of the shadows looked like dancing hippopotamuses, and three of them combined to look like a clown riding a horse. One of them looked like a little like. Susie closed her eyes. She listened to Samantha breathe. She wondered if her sister could understood the drawings. Samantha hadn't said anything before she stuffed them under the covers. Why didn't she put them there? Outside, a dull thud sounded on the porch. Already? Susie didn't want to leave yet. She was hoping Samantha would take a longer look at the drawings. She had to figure them out. The thud was followed by a faint squeak, the sound of the porch swing moving. Then the thud returned to a footstep pattern Susie was used to. Thud, tap, thud, tap. Why did that sound make her skin crawl? Why did this feel like she would know what was out there? Why did she feel like she had to know? Susie put back the covers and got out of bed as if something was pulling her from its safety. It was like one of those tractor beams she'd seen in a space movie her dad liked to watch, but she had no control. She wanted to stay in a nice warm bed, but instead she walked out of the room and down the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, she listened for the footsteps. Then she watched a large shadow pass to the dining room window. Once it passed, she trotted into the kitchen and opened the back door. She waited. Sometimes Samantha would come and slam the back door. They'd go back to bed, but not tonight. Tonight, Susie could only stand there, listening to the footsteps come closer and closer. At the last minute, just before the steps came around the corner, she closed the kitchen door. She tried to go back upstairs, but she couldn't. Instead, her feet took her to the entryway. The house had a really big entryway, a formal entryway, her mom called it. She told Susie that, in the old days, there used to be a round table in the middle of the entryway. The table always held a vase full of flowers from the garden, but Susie's mom had put the table away when Susie's first walking had turned into wild running, because Susie kept bumping into the table and knocking off the vase. She broke 7 vases before I gave up, Susie's mom liked to tell people. She never said she was mad, but it seemed like to make her happy for some reason. But now the big entryway held only a maroon and navy blue braided rug. Susie went to the middle of the rug and waited. When the shadows shifted outside the opposite circle wing of the house, approached the front door. Susie stepped forward and opened it. As Susie knew she would be, Chica stood tall and stiff outside the front door. The porch light played with Chica's yellow body, making it look like the animatronic was breathing. Susie looked up at Chica's pinkish purple eyes. Did Chica's big black eyebrows just move? Susie could look down quickly. Chica's orange feet were planted on the welcome mat, one foot over the W and 1 foot over the M. As always, Susie hesitated, but then she did as she knew she must. She held out her hand and let Chica enclose her stiff, cold fingers over her own. Chica turned and walked toward the steps leading down the leaf-covered front lawn. Susie had no choice but to go along. Now the small taps of her own footsteps joined with Chica's, and leaves crunched under her feet as they left Susie's house behind him. In the hushed stillness, Samantha listened to be sure her mother was in her room. She had to listen there because the thick walls blocked little sounds. Eventually, though, she heard a creak she recognized as her mother's bed. She waited just a few more minutes before turning on the flashlight under her covers and reading further each drawings. Samantha almost didn't need to see them. They'd been on her mind since the moment they appeared. In that time, she'd let herself admit that she knew the first picture was her and Susie. But what did that mean? Tenting her sheet and blanket, she aimed her flashlight at the drawing of the little girls. At first, Samantha thought the flying-haired squirrel-haired girl Susie held a mirror, but she quickly realized it was a magnifying glass. It looked like the one her dad used to have in his dress drawer in the office, the one she sometimes let the girls use to look at things up close. Samantha had never forgotten seeing Oliver's woodbark up close. It was like seeing the whole nother world. Susie could name things all she wanted, but Samantha would rather study them. That was what she used the magnifying glass for close-up study. Susie, though, used it to hunt. After Susie used the glass and looked at the caterpillar up close, she decided to use it to find teeny tiny insects in the lawn. She was sure she was going to find something no one had ever seen before. When Samantha used the glass to look up Oliver's bark, Susie grabbed it and aimed at a different part of the trunk. "Maybe we'll find some elves," she said. Okay, so if Susie is holding a magnifying glass, she was looking for something. But what? A floating baby? No, not the baby. The floating thing was a doll. Samantha frowned. If Susie was looking for a doll, there was only one doll missing, and that had to be Gretchen. So Susie wanted her back. But what about the chick? What was that? Samantha didn't understand the toothy chick. And what about the other drawing mean? Samantha aimed her flashlight at the second drawing. It just, as she remembered, 3 panels with a flying-haired girl, walking away from the door with the first 2. Just the third and the door and the third, and the moons were a little bigger in each panel. What did that mean? What if the moons getting bigger meant that each panel was a different day, like tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night? Samantha thought about her sister, the doll, and the moons. She got it. Turning off the flashlight, she thought Susie's only going to be here for 2 more nights. She was pretty sure she had to be right, but the chick. What was the chick here for? She whispered. Susie, of course, didn't answer. She was gone. Samantha's alarm woke her before the sun came up. Thankfully, she was a light sleeper, so it didn't take much volume for her to hear it. And there, she was sure it wouldn't disturb her mom. Her mom had trouble going to sleep, but when she was asleep, there was not much trouble waking up. Samantha had overheard her mom telling Jeannie, and she could only sleep in the help of pills. The pills seemed to make mornings really hard, but Samantha had learned not to talk to her mom before school. Once Samantha had forgotten a part of a school project, she and her mom were rushing around already because her mom had overslept. They had finally run out of the house and into the car, and her mom had only driven as far as the bottom of their driveway when Samantha realized that she'd left behind in her room. "I have to go back," she said. Her mom hit the brakes so hard Samantha's head shot forward and back. He figured her mom could quickly drive back of the house. Instead, her mom bent over and pounded her head several times on the steering wheel. She whispered something over and over like she did it. Samantha thought it was like, "I can't do this." Now Samantha laid in the dark, holding her alarm clock for several minutes. She didn't like getting up early. Susie had been the one who always wanted to hop out of bed and start playing before the sun was up. Susie was like her dad, who was the best part of the day, who was before dawn, when everyone was in a state of possibility. "Smell that air," he'd say to Samantha in the few mornings he was able to talk to her before getting up early. "Look at that pink light. It's so pretty," Susie would squeal. "Not pretty enough to get early for," Samantha thought. This morning, though, it didn't smell or the color that got Samantha out of bed. It was what she needed to do. She only had 2 more days to find Gretchen. She didn't know what would happen if she found Gretchen. She didn't understand why the missing doll could mean so much to her dead sister. Susie was a ghost, wasn't she? Why would a ghost want something like a doll? But it didn't matter. Susie wanted it, and after what had happened to her, she deserved to get what she wanted. Samantha threw back the covers. Cold air hit her bare legs, and the goosebumps prickled her skin. She ignored her desires to dive back into bed. Instead, she stood, letting the thick, soft material of her blue flannel nightgown block some of the cold air. She stuffed her feet into leather Caucasian slippers Jeannie had gotten for her. Samantha didn't like fuzzy animal slippers like Susie did. Grabbed the clothes she laid out during the night and trotted into the bathroom on tiptoe. Thankfully for the little space heater that sat on the sturdy footstool at the bathroom door, Samantha turned it on and stood in front of it a couple minutes to warm up. Then she did a short version of her morning routine before getting dressed. After she realized what Susie's drawing meant, Samantha had tried to stay awake for long enough for her mom pillows to work so she could start looking for Gretchen. But she might be hearing her mom's bed creak, which meant her mom was not deeply asleep. Samantha's eyes had started to close, so she set her alarm for the morning. When she finished in the bathroom, Samantha turned off the heater and opened the door. Stepping into the hallway, she stood on the dark green braided runner and thought about where Susie might have hidden Gretchen. Samantha glanced at Susie's closed door. She shook her head. The doll wouldn't be in there. When Samantha and Susie had fought about Gretchen, Susie was upset that she could possibly get. She wouldn't have put the doll in her room where Samantha could easily find it, and even if it wasn't there, that was going to be the last place Samantha looked. She hadn't been in Susie's room since the horrible night when Samantha went down the hall toward the stairs. If she was going to look for the doll, she would do it in an organized way. It made sense to start at the bottom of the house and work up. Besides, on the first floor, there was less chance to wake up her mom. The porch's light, pale yellow glow, stretched up the stairs through the red glass window in the front door. The light was mottled and eerie. How can glass be lead? Susie had asked when their dad had told them about the glass in the door was called. Samantha smiled now as she walked down the stairs. Susie was always asking questions like that. Samantha was never really sure if Susie was being funny or dumb. At the bottom of the stairs, Samantha looked both ways. She could go either the dining room or the living room. Besides the chicken, the only other rooms on the first floor was a small bedroom in her dad's office. She doubted the doll would be in either of those rooms because there weren't any hiding places in there. She started in the dining room. This dining room was at least a couple of sizes of many dining rooms Samantha had seen on TV. She couldn't really compare it to other people's dining rooms because she hadn't seen any others. She didn't have any friends. When Susie was alive, Samantha was sometimes invited to parties that Susie went to, but she stopped going after attending a couple. They were stupid and boring, and the kids were always mean to her. Samantha wiped her forehead and brushed away her memories. She turned on the wall switch and light fixture over the table and come on low. The light was a big metal wheel with fake candles along its rim. Jeannie had said the light fixture was farmhouse style, which made sense. Why is it called a fixture? Susie asked when they were little. It doesn't fix anything. Samantha crossed the tall carved hatch that sat between one side of the long, dark dining table. She opened the lower doors. The hutch was full of china and crystal, dishes, and her glasses their family never used. She peered behind the stacks of plates and bowls. No Gretchen. Moving along the low cabinet in the back of the room. The sideboard, Jeannie called it. Samantha opened all the compartments and found lots of serving platters and vases. No Gretchen. She went to the front of the room and opened the lid of the window seat, filled with tablecloths and napkins. Just to be sure, she dug under and between the stacks. No doll. She went into the living room next, outside on the street. She heard a roar of the garbage truck emptying trash cans in front of all the houses. She chewed her lower lip. Would the garbage truck wake up her mom? She'd better hurry. The living room was big and filled with puffy, comfy furniture. It was too bad they hardly used it. Samantha looked longingly at the long plaid sofa that faced the stone fireplace at the end of the room. Two solid Bunbury love seats joined the sofa to make a U shape, filled with the corners of the chunky oak and the tables that were centered around the square green ottoman. This was where the family used to play games by the fire. At the other end of the living room was another big sofa. On the couple of recliner chairs faced the flat screen TV. Sometimes her mom would let Samantha watch that TV, but most of the time she was supposed to watch shows on her computer in the room. Around the edges of the room, built-in oak shelves and cabinets were stuffed with books, pictures, and frames. Samantha remembered Susie's feelings about those shelves, and some were about other furniture. Oak? Susie said one day about 6. Oak like Oliver? Furniture is made from wood, their dad said, and wood comes from trees. So they killed trees to make furniture? Susie squealed. Their parents had spent most of an hour trying to convince her the trees didn't feel pain and that were cut down. They never succeeded. Susie was sure the trees hurt. Samantha started searching all the cabinets behind the front corner, working clockwise around. When she didn't find anything, she felt behind all the bookshelves, but she could only reach the bottom 3 rows. She trotted into the kitchen pantry and then got the stepladder that kept in there. Defying her orderly plan, she searched the pantry while she was there. She found evidence that someone other than her had been hiding sweets. An old hardened bag of marshmallows, two half-eaten packages of chocolate chip cookies, an unopened box of old-fashioned donuts with a sell-it-by date that was a year ago, and a metal container of hard butterscotch candies that were all stuck together. But she didn't find Gretchen. Dragging the stepladder back to the living room, she climbed up and down it 14 times to look behind books and pictures. She found nothing but a lot of dust, which made her sad, because her mother used to want the house to be spick and span. She remembered how the house used to smell like lemons from the spray her mom used when she dusted. Now it just smelled like dust. When she exhausted all the living room hiding spots, Samantha looked at the big wooden grandfather clock in the back hall. She had to get ready for school soon, and she had to wake her mom. Before dragging the stepladder back into the kitchen, she peeked her head into the office, the only potential hiding place was her dad's empty desk. She hurried and opened all the drawers and looked into the cubbyhole, where she once hung out by her dad's knees when they were really small. Nothing. There was nothing to see in the entire room, just a desk and empty shelves. The only other thing Samantha saw as the rush from the room was a funny little piece of carpet stuck up to the front edge of one of the shelves. Risking a search in the kitchen before waking her mom, Samantha opened one cabinet of the drawer after another, viewing behind the dishes, pots and pans, plastic containers, baskets, and utensils. Gretchen remained hidden. Samantha felt Susie's presence as soon as she got into the minivan after school that day. How did Susie do it? Samantha was sure Susie hadn't been around that morning, and she knew Susie was never in school. Samantha ignored her sister's insistent presence and stared back at her mom's messy hair. Did her mom know Susie was here? Samantha wondered if she could ask. Maybe not while her mom was driving. When her mom pulled into a driveway, Samantha turned to stare at Oliver, almost like if someone was making her do it. Usually she ignored Oliver. Was Susie making her look? How? Oliver was only a few leaves left. Maybe she could come out and count them before dinner? No, she had to keep looking for Gretchen. Beans and franks for dinner? Her mom asked. Something that felt like a wave flowed through Samantha. The wave was dark and kind of oily. It wanted to cling to Samantha away the sadness that clung to her since Susie was gone. She thought the wave was emotion, but was it hers or Susie's? Susie loved beans and franks. She was sad that she couldn't have any. Did they have food where she had gone when she died? Beans and franks are okay, Samantha said. Can't we have pineapple too? In her mind, she saw Susie screw up her face in disgust. Did Susie put the image there? Samantha always liked pineapple with beans, and Susie thought that was gross. Her mom gave Samantha a half smile. Sure. Susie followed Samantha when she hurried from one room to next in search of Gretchen. Samantha had been searching for Gretchen ever since they got home. Susie's drawing had worked. Unfortunately, Samantha wasn't having any luck. This was partly because she was looking in dumb places. For instance, Samantha had tried to find Gretchen in the hole in Oliver's tree trunk, shining her light into the hole and muttering about elves. Samantha had held her breath and stuck her hand deep down about inside the tree. Susie was laughing the whole time. Samantha had believed her when she talked about elves. Now that they were going down the house, the sound of running water and clinking pans and silverware made it clear that Mom was still in the kitchen. Obviously, Samantha was trying to search upstairs before her mom finished fixing dinner. She started with her mom's studio. I would never have hidden Gretchen in here, Susie told Samantha when they opened the studio door. Samantha had paid no attention to Susie. That wasn't surprise. Samantha was being stubborn. Why couldn't Susie remember where she put the doll? She knew where she put it the first time she hid it. It had been in her room, under the bed. When she knew she was a very original hiding place, a couple hours later she'd moved it, but to where? Susie stood in the doorway of her mom's studio while Samantha scurried around, digging in piles of fabric stacked in pale yellow shelves and mounds in the yard, heaped in huge wicker baskets under a valve windows and the canvas bins of wool sitting next to her mother's loom. Susie thought of all this as very brave because one of the standing house rules of the studio was off limits. Samantha even opened the door to the storage room on the far end of the studio, which she went in to search. Susie didn't follow. Susie loved to play and be silly, but she wasn't crazy brave. The storage room had her mom's finished work, the stuff she sold to make money. They were never allowed to touch it. Once, when Susie was 5, her mom had left one of her tapestries on the dining table because someone was coming up to pick it. Curious, Susie went to the dining room, climbed up to the chair, and looked down at the tapestry. It was covered in fluffy tufts of saffron fabric that delighted her, so she had to touch it. Forgetting she was eating chocolate chip cookies, she put her sticky fingers all over the light peach-colored tufts. When she saw the chocolatey smudges, she tried to wipe them out, which spread them around even more. This made her cry, but it scared her enough to try and run from the room. In her hurry, she ended up knocking over a chair and falling. Trying to catch herself, she grabbed the tapestry and then still hit her head on the table, which made her shriek. And then her mother ran into the room. Susie was on the floor with the chocolate-smeared tapestry in one hand, bleeding onto the other part of the tapestry from the gash in her forehead. Her mom had been so angry that she had scared Susie. Scared her so much she never went anywhere near any of her mother's work again. Gretchen was not in her mother's studio, but Susie could only wait for Samantha to figure that out on her own. Once she did, Samantha moved on to the mom's bedroom. First, she paused in the hallway to listen. More sounds in the kitchen encouraged Samantha to enter. Gretchen's not in here, Susie said as Samantha got down to peek under her mom's bed. The dark blue bed skirt draped over Samantha's head like a scarf. Samantha popped up the floor, tilted her head to listen for a second, and then went into her mother's closet. Samantha began weeping inside the hanging clothes, opening and closing shoeboxes. Don't you think she would have found it by now if it was in here? Susie said. Samantha didn't answer. Samantha looked over the shelves above the hanging clothes. You could just crawl up the rack, Samantha muttered. Susie smiled. Yes, I would. Samantha turned into a circle, frowning, spotting the bench that sat at her end of their mom's bed. Samantha dragged it into the closet. Susie felt bad for just standing there and watching, but Samantha was wasting her time. Samantha stood on the bench, even on tiptoes. She had to strain to see the top shelves of her mom's closet. Finishing the closet, she moved her mom's dresser. Susie chewed on her thumb. She was sure Samantha was going to get yelled at for sure what she was doing. Samantha had known that too, but she wasn't going to let that stop her. Samantha searched through all of her mom's underwear, stockings, socks, and scarves. Samantha! What? Samantha squealed, slamming the shut dresser drawer. Dinner in 5. Okay. Samantha ran to her mom's nightstand and searched it. And then it came to her dad's, his was empty. Her mom's was stuffed full of books, fabric samples, and pills. Gretchen was not hiding among them. I told you so, Susie said as they followed Samantha from mom's room. She knew that she was being a snarky baby, but she couldn't help it. She could almost hear a ticking sound in her head. Samantha has been snooping through my things, Patricia told Jeannie over the phone. Discovering the materials had been rifled through, so Patricia had decided to call her friend instead of yelling at her daughter. What things? From what I can tell, all my things, Patricia said. She pressed 3 fingers to her temple. Samantha knows better than that. Exactly, so what must have been a good reason, Jeannie said. What reason could she possibly have? I don't know, but I know that she had one. Nothing is missing or damaged. Nothing I can tell. Then let it go. But seriously, Patricia, it's time to let it all go. Cheeky came at midnight. As usual, Susie felt pulled from Samantha's bed. As usual, she felt compelled to wander around the house and watch Chica's dark-shaped circle outside. As usual, she opened the back door, then closed it and went to the front. As usual, she wondered why she had to do what she did to do. Why did she have to leave her family? She usually opened the front door. The night breeze blew a couple of Oliver's leaves past Chica's feet and into the house. The night was brighter than the previous couple nights because the moon was fuller. The clouds were gone, too. The stars were so thick in the sky that they reminded Susie of the powdered sugar that her mom used to put on chocolate crinkle cookies that she made on Christmas time. In some places, the stars were blurred into expansive and brilliant white light. Susie expected Chica to take her hand, as usual. Instead of Chica lifted a hand and pushed Susie aside. Then Chica walked into the house. A nightmare woke up Samantha. Her eyes flew open and she clutched her blanket. Listening to her heart pound, it was just a dream, she told herself. She felt her heart start to slow down. Then it sped up again. Samantha sat up. It wasn't just a dream. Chica, she whispered. Her dream told her to move in the chicks in Susie's drawing. The chick was Chica. Chica had been chasing Samantha in the dream. Samantha had been trying to move in the shelf of their dad's office, but Chica had been stalking her. Samantha gasped at her dad's office. That's where Samantha throws. Then she heard the sounds. Thud, tap, thud, tap. What a thrilling end to today's chapter. If I wasn't on such a tight time restraint, I would just read the 10 more, but, that's okay. So, tomorrow is going to be a very short, but also very action-packed read. So that's going to be exciting. Anyways, the lesson I can teach you guys today is maybe don't go to drugs when it comes down to... Oh, whoops. Probably should put that... Oh, whoops. Page number. Alright. But yeah. Aside from that, all I can say is maybe be excited for the next episode that's coming out on Thursday. And yeah, I'm excited to read it. I'm probably gonna read it tomorrow morning, so that'll be nice. There is a book called Animal Farm that I will be reading very soon. It's not gonna be after this book, but it's gonna be after maybe the one after this. I don't know. It might be after this one actually. I don't know. But yeah. Hope you guys have a fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. The reading is more content that I'm doing nowadays than later, pushing forward. Like I've been doing for a lot more content. So I hope you guys have been enjoying that. And yeah. The lesson you can learn here is maybe find another way besides drugs to do certain things, like sleeping habits. I can't say much. I actually have sleeping meds that I take because I think 1,000 things a second and I can't go to sleep because of it, and it's annoying. But because drugs can always do bad. Like drugs never really have a positive except the positive that makes them drugs. Marijuana dampens, but it also screws with the brain. Other drugs do stupid stuff to the body. Just drugs are never good. So, maybe try to find a more natural way of doing something and not just go, well, I need the drug. No other way of doing it. Maybe think of something, because the mom could have probably, done something else to, sleep. And then, yeah. Because it seems like she's built a lot of anger, and then she wants to yell at people, but, her friend Jeannie is just like, ooh, spooky, you can't do that, or I will yell at you. And then she's like, but I want to yell at him. And it's like, yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. I'm gonna go take a nap, but first I gotta edit this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.